Good evening, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the evening of Sunday, September 17th, 2023. Stand by for a very special commentary. Well, Americans, this week President Zelensky from the Ukraine comes to the States to meet with President Biden, oh boy, and the United Nations for the United Nations General Assembly that happens every year. And he'll be asking for more help from the United States. Well, the U.S. has got $24 billion that they want to offer him on top of the 70 they already have. And he just had a interview on 60 Minutes with Scott Pelley. And those of you who watch 60 Minutes probably didn't understand what he was trying to say. Or Scott Pelley, on the other hand, he didn't know what he was trying to say either. Scott Pelley doesn't understand. The problem in Ukraine is Ukraine has always been Russia's breadbasket ever since the city-state of Moscow boy invaded it and took it over. Piece here and a piece there. Never all of it. Until the Soviet Union in 1922. Vladimir Lenin made it one of the republics of the Union of Socialist Republics. That's why it was called Ukraine SSR. You Americans don't understand that. That's terrible because you should. And Ukraine was always part of this or part of that. It was never quite independent. The people are strange in Ukraine, yes. But the eastern part of Ukraine was mostly Russian for a long time. The western part was either allied or occupied or owned by Lithuania and Poland in their various incarnations. Okay? And there was a question that Scott Pelley asked President Zelensky. Does the requirement for victory with Ukraine mean that you want the entire territory, including Crimea, to be Ukraine? And Mr. Zelensky said yes. Mr. Zelensky, I got to point out that your predecessor, otherwise known as Nikita Khrushchev, stole the Crimea from the Russian Federation back in 1954 and made it part of Ukraine SSR. Actually, it did it the way President FDR stole the election of 1940 from his vice president, Mr. Gardner. Same underhanded trick. He must have read that in 1940, and 14 years later he used it. Because it's the same dirty trick. You Americans, you won't tell your people that that was a dirty trick used in 1940 to give Mr. Roosevelt the presidential nomination of the Democratic Party when he wasn't even a candidate. Yeah, boy. And you must understand Vladimir Putin. He is making Putin to be an Adolf Hitler. He's got the wrong analogy for President Zelensky. Putin is nothing like Adolf Hitler. He is more like a Roman Emperor Trajan, who came to power in 98 AD and wanted a country that didn't amount to nothing, but he had something that he wanted: gold. Dacia. And the Dacians told him to go stick it. And this infuriated Trajan, just like it infuriates Vladimir Putin that Mr. Nikita Khrushchev, a Ukrainian, ruled the Russian Federation, i.e. the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, from 53 to 64, or as you would say, officially 58 to 64. But he actually had the power from 53 to 64. That's how he got that the Russian Congress, or the Soviet Congress, passed the resolution that gave Crimea from the Russian Federation to Ukraine SSR. This is Vladimir Putin's vision, people, okay? You got to understand his way of looking at the world. And therefore, he can't rest until the Ukrainian people are obliterated. It's the same way of thinking of Trajan. He couldn't rest until the Dacians were obliterated from the face of the earth. Literally obliterated. Is there any Dacians left? Oh, there probably was a few, very few, that were left, and they scattered away from the Roman Empire, or they hid in the Roman Empire and survived. But most of them were annihilated. I would say about 95% probably were annihilated by the Romans. Today you know Dacia as Romania, the last vestige of Roman people. And that's why you get all kinds of Romanians that have all these different things, because they're the vestiges of the Roman Empire. From the gypsies that called themselves Romani, to the other people that occupied present-day Romania. It's like the people of Hungary, which were originally Huns, when the Roman Empire was disintegrating. And today it's Hungary. This is what the vision of Trajan from 98 to his death in 117 AD was. The same vision that Vladimir Putin has today. Now, Trajan didn't have any other adversaries to worry about at the time. This is the time that the Roman Empire was coming to full extent of power. There was no other challenge to it until after he died. And it would take decades after he died before a challenger would come forth, otherwise known as Parthia, or the reinstated Persian Empire. But Vladimir Putin doesn't have that luxury. He's got a pain-in-the-neck nation known as the United States, who is interfering in his affairs, literally, without knowing the Ukrainians or the Russians. And the fact that eventually it'll cost World War III. Because unlike Dacia, That was Rome's last conquest that started in 202 BC with Carthage. Or actually 220 BC with Carthage. And the wars that came over that and ended with Trajan's final conquest of Dacia. There was war afterwards, but that was between the borders, where the Romans didn't want to increase their thing because they had enough problems trying to control the borders that they had already. Okay? The United States doesn't understand Russia or Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has seen that the Russian Federation, i.e. the Soviet Union, when it disintegrated, it took away some of Russian Federation territory, as in Crimea and the Baltic states, Poland. Oh, Russia wanted Poland all the time. That's why Poland was partitioned not once but twice between the Prussians and the Russians. The Prussians being one of the states that became the German Empire. That's Prussia and Russia. Okay? And then again, under the Third Reich and the Soviet Union in 1939, when they invaded Poland on September 1st, the Germans on September 17th, today, in 1939, the Russians invaded the eastern side of Poland. Therefore, they, again, partitioned Poland. This is something you don't understand, Americans. And this is one of the things that Mr. Zelensky is right on. Sooner or later, Vladimir Putin is going to drag you into World War III. Because he has the thinking of Trajan, not Adolf Hitler. And you must understand that. You are heading for World War III, and it's not Zelensky. It's not the Ukrainians. There will never be a peace between the Russians and the Ukrainians until one is annihilated. And there's more Russians than there are Ukrainians, so the odds are the Ukrainians are going to get annihilated, and like the Dacians, don't exist anymore. So do you understand me now, Americans? You're in a quagmire here. There is no winners and there is no losers, but there's plenty of disaster. And the disaster is the human race will cease to exist. This is your favorite alien. Good day.